Good morning. I am Steve Weber, the host of the American Gumption Morning Show. Welcome to Tuesday, December 29th. And I'm excited to be here. I got a great guest coming up. Dela Fotoohi is going to join us in about 15 minutes. And I've got a nice little monologue on the new age broadcasting is what I'm calling that. So excited to be doing show number 98. Can you believe it? We started on August 3rd, and already we're zeroing in on that 100 mark show coming up in just a couple days. So happy to be here. Broadcasting with my broadcast partner, Spirituality Gone Wild, and been with them since day one. Excited for all the things that are coming up in the new year with Spirituality Gone Wild, as Debbie G behind the scenes makes things happen and brings on new hosts and new ideas, new marketing plans, new ways of sharing our show. So all of that will be forthcoming in the weeks to come. So very excited about what 2021 offers from a broadcast perspective. Alrighty, so now tomorrow we got two more shows this year. We're going to broadcast live tomorrow, Wednesday, and then also on Thursday. And so tomorrow, Victoria Reynolds joins us. Victoria is an author, a speaker, and Victoria and I have a connection. We just met each other last week, and we have a connection to Montana that's quite interesting. And she was there long before I arrived, but we were essentially, I lived probably about a mile from where she grew up. So we'll get into that story. That is a big piece of her story and her whole journey of soul awakening. So looking forward to that conversation tomorrow with Victoria Reynolds. And then on Thursday, we're going all the way out to Hollywood. We're going to meet a real live Hollywood actor, Walt Keller. Walt is a guy who lived his life in Denver. His professional career, had a business for 25 years, and he sold the business and moved to Hollywood just shy of age 50 and said, I'm going to break in and become an actor. And darned if he hasn't done that. So Walt and I got to know each other a few years ago, and I look forward to having Walt share his story. That'll be on Thursday, December 31st, we'll be broadcasting. And then we're going to take off today on Friday, the 1st, and I'll be back the following Monday, the January 4th, Monday, January 4th. All righty, very good. All righty, so my monologue today is titled New Age Broadcasting. And I kind of threw this together, because of our guest coming up. And I wanted to, what we're doing is kind of, it's a little bit, it doesn't quite fit into traditional broadcasting in the sense. So what was traditional broadcasting? We had TV and radio. Really, it was radio and then TV. So in the 30s, radio started to become common where, households had a radio, and then there became like these weekly shows and broadcast, and neighbors would come over and they'd sit around and watch the TV or watch the radio, and they'd be a broadcast with it. And so, that was the beginning of, and there was not very many shows on. It wasn't like radios were on, at the crack of dawn or all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You had shows that came on, and this is how it all started. Then they were kind of more like a national show. And then radio filled in and became a local thing. So like, people figured out that, hey, we could broadcast, tell what's happening in our particular city or town, and then sell advertising for it, and businesses all sprang up. So that was the beginning of radio. TV, I'm not 100% sure of the dates, but let's just say in the sometime in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Really, the 50s is when TV became kind of a mainstream thing. So then people went from originally having their radios where they got news, and then they got their TV. And there was the three broadcast stations: ABC, NBC, CBS, and they for years and years and years had a monopoly, and you put shows on. I grew up with TV sitcoms and the nightly news and that whole thing. And it was just, you had three channels, and then you had a few little fringe channels that started again broadcasting and filling in some gaps and running reruns, that sort of thing. And so then cable came along and exploded it. So you went from, essentially 3 stations with another, 4 or 5 kind of peripheral, like background stations that were being broadcast, to having like, dozens and then hundreds of broadcast stations. Every kind of a channel you could think of got invented. And that would have been what, I don't know, 80s, not 80s, I guess. I'm not sure. So anyway, but it all grew and grew and grew. So then what happened was they all became conglomerates and corporations. So they're now owned, but the 3 big ones are owned by big giant corporations, and they how do I say this delicately? They all kind of just say the exact same thing across all of the different channels. Certainly for the 3 big network stations, they all sound alike. You switch the channel, they all kind of are talking the same kind of, especially the national stuff that gets promoted. All of the reporters and those guys that work together, they all, their stories, you could just, it's amazing how similar they all sound. So, there's very little, differentiation between them all. And I'll go so far to say a lot of it sounds like propaganda. It's like they've got like their agenda, their talking points, and boop, it's just getting spewed out day after day after day after day after day. All right, that's fine. And I almost feel a little sorry for these people working for them, and they're getting paid big bucks, some of them, and they're not exercising a lot of free will in terms of what they're talking about and doing. They're like little puppets in many ways. And so what kind of creativity is going on in their mind as they go about doing their job? I don't know. Again, this is my editorializing and saying what I'm seeing. Okay, so that's the traditional the traditional broadcast thing. The internet comes along, and then I'm going to calling it internet TV, and you had YouTube. Let's just, we'll call YouTube, but there's other places, and it became like a way of broadcasting things that were, basically your show. You had the ability to create a channel, a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel. Our guest Dela has a YouTube channel. There's millions of channels out there, people, and every kind of little niche category, anything you care about, you can create your own channel and then broadcast on that. So, and then internet radio, kind of similar. And the whole idea of podcasting, the iPod for music initially was launched. Apple put out the iPod, and then MP3 players is what they became called. Other people put them out, but you could listen to music. Well, then people figured out, well, we don't have to put music on it. We can just put like a talk show or a my own message, and it became podcasting channels. And then you ended up with, traditional stations streaming their show. So you had national shows, national, people like Rush Limbaugh and other conservative talk show hosts that, are, and any kind of talk show host that now they're streaming their show live on the internet. So it's not just being announced over the airways, but it's actually streaming. So it's becoming like television. You're just sitting there watching, listening to a person talk. And so radio kind of became television, and television kind of became radio. That merging of visual and audio happened. And again, these things are all streaming and being live, and you can listen to your favorite music station, the classic rock station or the country station, and you can listen to it, but you can also see, like, there's a visual. Now, mostly you're listening, but you can see what the name of the song is and the name of the artist. It used to be you had to listen and wait and hear the DJ announce what the song was. Who is singing the song? Now you just instantly look it up and you can see it. So this marriage of visual and audio kind of all came together. The internet, of course, is what made that all possible. So then people ask me, what do you call this? Like, what people have said this, several times in the last, couple of months. What do you call your show? What is it you're doing? Are you podcasting? Are you vlogging? Are you live streaming? And the answer is yeah. Yeah, I'm podcasting, I'm blogging, I'm live streaming. I use StreamYard, but there's other platforms that you can, that you use to broadcast. Zoom is kind of a good meeting platform, not such a good broadcasting platform. StreamYard is the platform I use. Many other people use that platform too, but there's other broadcast platforms that people can use to send this out to across the airwaves. So, and on my particular show, I mean, I have some graphics today. I don't have any. So it's going to be just kind of a talk format, other than you can see me and you can see our guest as she arrives. But it's just lots of times I have graphics and I share my screen and I put up there, a different little bit of a slideshow, let's call it, and different things that way. So, and that adds a nice touch. And some days I'm a little, someday a guest lends themselves more to that type of thing. And it's interesting to do that. You really you get into a production, then you're almost like a TV, station. So what is this we're doing? Is this TV? Is it radio? Is it, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. So I'm calling it New Age Broadcasting for this particular segment. So now what do I call my show? I call it the American Gumption Morning Show. And I really labeled it as a variety show when I started, because I wanted to have different guests. I wanted to do a little bit of a monologue. I wanted to do maybe a little bit of skits, a little bit of transition pieces. So I had this idea of it being the kind of fast flow moving, maybe do like a 10 minutes here with the monologue and then bring the guest on. That's sort of the format I had, but I thought initially that I would have a shorter interview segment and then have some other types of segments, other show hosts from co-creators from Spirituality Gone Wild coming in and talking about what their show might be. So that could all happen as 2021 evolves and gets into it. So again, what am I? I'm it's mostly talk. It's mostly like a podcast. And yet it's live streamed and there is some visual that's going on with it. There's some video things. I do bring in little video clips, certainly my introduction with it, some segment exchanges. I have a video special guest who appear on a regular basis. We have little intros for those folks. So it's it's not just a pure podcast. It's this kind of mixture of things. And I'm excited to talk with Dela because she's doing several shows and I'll want to get into some of the things that she's doing in terms of how this, what does she think? Is it strictly talk? Is it like visual? Is it, it's all of the above. And so I don't know that there's really a name that we have for it now. So for right now, we'll just call it New Age Broadcasting and leave it at that. All righty. Well, I see Dela is in the green room. Hopefully she's been well taken care of back there and made to feel welcome. Dela, welcome to the show.
Coffee, lots of donuts back here. Thank you.
Oh, good. The elves that have been left over from Christmas, we're still running around back there giving treats out.
Yes. Thank you very much, Steve. Hello, everyone. Hello, Steve. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm ecstatic, very, very excited. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, here's what we typically do, Dela. Anytime a first-time guest comes on, I like to do two things. I like to read a little intro, a bio that I've prepared for, so the audience will know who you are. And then I have a song that I like to play, and I call it
belly dancing.
There's no dancing required. You might want to march. That's the only hint. You might want to march around the room a little bit. But anyway, we call it the first time guest theme. So if you come back sometime in 2021 and we follow up, we're not going to play this song because it's just strictly the first time guest theme.
Initiation. Thank you. I get it.
All righty. Well, let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's put you in the spotlight and I will read your introduction and let people know who you are. So Dela Fotoohi is the host of Dela's Voice talk show. The show informs, inspires, and motivates through expert interviews. I like that, expert interviews. Dela's Voice began 3 years ago as an in-person, face-to-face interview format. The interviews took place in the corner of the flower shop that Dela owned and operated with her husband. Dela's vision was to be a broadcaster and the next Oprah. Hey, you might as well have big dreams. I like that. We already like you here. The beginning of the show coincided with her own spiritual awakening. A family event had Dela questioning the meaning of life and searching for her own life purpose. Dela was deeply affected by her brother's battle with schizophrenia. This year, Dela took Dela's Voice virtual, which allowed her to open up the possibility of guests and topics as physical location was no longer a limiting factor. Right. Since then, Dela has added 4 new shows to her roster of regularly broadcast shows: The Butterfly Effect, The Book Reveal, Magnetic Entrepreneur, and The Iranian Show. And I'm not sure if that's the name of that show, but that's what I'm calling it for right now. So we'll get into all of those and you can tell us about it. Now, all 4 of these shows all started this year as COVID arrived and changed everything. And as the spin-offs from our original show, they didn't quite fit into Dela's Voice, so they became their own special show. I love that. So I'm personally excited to speak with Dela this morning as she is turning her passion into a broadcasting business. So Dela Fotoohi, welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
You're very, very welcome. Let's play that song and then we'll get into it. Have you ever had a marching band welcome you to a broadcast before?
Never. Quite special.
See, it's always a first time for everything. So very good. Well, welcome. So we have a couple comments already. I don't recognize these people. I'm thinking maybe these are your friends. So we have Cassie Ellis and Mari Lee checking in. So thank you for bringing your guest from all over the world and joining in with the American Gumption Morning Show already. So let's go back to 3 years ago. You're running the flower shop with your husband, and you go, hey, I'm going to just start a broadcast, but I'm going to start interviewing people. And you take a little corner of the flower shop and you set up a camera and a microphone, and you start interviewing people. Is that how it started?
Okay, so it wasn't 3 years ago, actually. So 3 years ago is when I started doing vlogs, and the vlogs were just me talking on camera. So the interviews started a year ago in October. So okay. just a little bit of date correction there. But so what happened, Steve? 3 years ago is when I was going through a rough time with everything that was going on with my family, my brother's illness. It was a really tough time for me because I wasn't really prepared for what was coming to me, and I got really ill. And through that illness is when I realized that I needed to start taking care of myself. It was like like an awakening. So it was like a slap, right? And sometimes we just need that to wake up and start really thinking, what is really going on with me right now? What do I need to be doing? And so that's what happened to me. So I started a journey with a coach. I hired a coach because I wasn't happy in my life, and I had everything I needed to be happy. I just was not happy. So after I started working with the coach, about 6 months later is when I was in that crisis situation with my brother, and I realized that had I not started my journey 6 months before that, I would not be prepared for what was coming, because my brother got really, really sick, and his situation was getting worse by the day. And so I was getting help for him through an organization. And this is when I realized I'm the first one that needs to be helped. And often we try to control everything in our lives, every situation, everybody. And the only person we can control, really, it's us. And so that's when I realized for the first time that change needed to come from me. And so I started this growth and self-development journey. And it's so funny, because as I was changing, everything else was changing too. And my relationship with my brother was changing. He was more accepting of what I had to offer. And everybody else too around me was changing. It's really quite fascinating. And so, yeah, that's how it got started. And then...
So initially, after you went through this, bit of, let's just call it roughly not quite a year, but a year time frame where you're doing all this awakening and personal development work, is that then when you said, I'm going to start a vlog where you would just like talk to the camera and put out these little videos? Is that kind of how it happened next?
Yes. So
tell us about that part of the...
So what was happening is, okay, so like one day I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've been so angry. Let me do a vlog on being angry and how I'm feeling. Maybe someone else is feeling it too. And these were really amateur vlogs. And, Steve, it was so hard because the technology was difficult for me. I didn't understand how everything worked. So I remember like being the perfectionist, I needed everything to be perfect. So I would record a little video, and then I would re-record it, and I would delete it, and I would edit it, and I would re-record it again. And it would take me hours to put out a vlog of 5 minutes. But it was getting momentum. It was getting attention. People were commenting, this is really good. This is really interesting. I'm feeling it too. And I was getting inspired. So for a while I was doing these vlogs and putting them out on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook. And it was like, I was really putting myself out there for the first time in my life. I was really being vulnerable. Like I was really, really being honest with my emotions, and I was feeling the effects, the results of people, commenting that it was changing them, it was affecting them, that it was a really good feeling. So then what happened was, it was always my dream to be. And I want to go back and tell you when that dream started, if that's okay.
Sure, please.
Early in my 20s, I got introduced to Amway. You know Amway, Steve?
I do. Yep.
So through all these marketing tools and lessons and strategies, I was introduced to motivational speaking. So we used to go to these conferences, and they'd be huge conferences with thousands of people. And I'd be standing with all these people, and I'd look around me, and everybody's so excited. Everybody's like so energetic, and they're going to go out there and get it done,
Right.
But I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be there on that stage when those motivational speakers were talking, and they knew how to do it, and because they had been there and they knew exactly how we felt out there. And now look at them, and now look at what they've done. And once they were done, Steve, you just wanted to burst out of your skin and go get it done. And that I thought, that's what I want to do. That's where I want to be. I want to be the one motivating people and inspiring them and giving them hope, because that feels like it's something powerful. So that's where that started. And I always felt like I needed to be on that stage talking to people and getting them motivated and really inspiring hope, because hope was something I didn't have in my life for a very long time. So that's how that dream started. Wow. And then Dela's Voice was just, honestly, a consequence of these pieces of puzzle like falling in together, because I said yes to an event I attended, and I then met someone who helped me figure out how to do this. It was just an amazing series of events. And yes, I started Dela's Voice at the corner of my flower shop with this homemade sign. My husband helped me make this.
It's great. I'm looking at the backdrop and I'm thinking, wow, look at that backdrop. It's beautiful.
This is going to stay with me forever, Steve, even when I make it really big.
You don't have to change a thing. You can just keep it exactly that way. It
was there. Yes.
It's funny, Dela. They say we teach what we need to learn ourselves. And my own journey, I was Forrest Gump for 15 years for Bubba Gump, and sat on a bench and was entertaining people and having I was sitting on this like stage. It was a bench in front of a restaurant, but it was like, I considered it my stage. And so I was, doing that. And then I thought I can become that same person that goes up on the stage and do that same very thing and deliver a message. And so I say, I'm like, as that was winding down, I said, I'm going to be a speaker and I'm going to go up there on the stage. And I realized I got hired to go there, and I realized I had no message. I had like all this entertainment stuff and ways to make people laugh. I was more like a stand-up comedian than someone who had a message. And as I started to develop the message, I had to look in the mirror and develop that same kind of thing. And so that was the wake-up call for me. So I know exactly what you're saying in terms of like we, the very first thing we have to do is figure this out ourselves. We can't just, we can't pretend, we can't fake it up there. So anyway.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you're so right. You're so right.
Well, continue with the idea that you start Dela's Voice then. So tell me, I want to hear about these like interviews was going on inside of your little town in Canada in the flower shop. Who are you interviewing at the beginning?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I remember my first interview. Actually, my first interview was really cool. So we decided that we were going to do a live show with a live audience. So we did we went and we hired this spot, and these were people that came into my life that had no place in my life. Honestly, I have no idea how they came into my life to get me to that moment, to realizing that dream was so big for me, Steve. It was like this big, huge thing I needed to do, but everything worked out so smoothly. So we did the first show, and it was just like I was interviewing these couple of young men who had their own transformation. So we did that. It was live. It was broadcast. It had tons of view, and lots of people who love me were watching, obviously, and commenting, and it felt so good. And then afterwards, it was like, okay, so who am I going to interview next? And I look around me, and every single person has a story. Yeah. And I thought, this is what I truly believe, that your story is your superpower. For you not to tell your story is like that superhero who's hiding their superpower from the world. It's good for no one. So I encourage people to tell the story, because there's lessons to be learned from every single person's story. To me, a society, a community is successful to the degree of the generosity of the members of that society in sharing their knowledge and their experience. And so if we're selfish and keeping all that knowledge and experience to ourselves, we're not of help. We're not of service to anyone. And I figured that with people, most people don't want to start alive and start telling their story. A lot of people don't want to write a book. A lot of people are not comfortable with things like that. But when you get a person on camera and you start asking them the right questions, they start answering, because people love nothing more than talking about their stories.
Yeah.
So that's how I got my interviews. And I've been so lucky because, every single person has had so much to share, not only with the world, but me. Like, I feel like every single episode is a classroom. I think you shared that with me, Steve, that you learn so much every single time. It's really, I feel really blessed. So the flower shop offered a spot. It was really cool. But then I live like 50 minutes north of Toronto. And so for people to come to me, it was very limiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we had like the humming of the fridge, the coolers going on, and I didn't have the right microphone. I had my camera from my computer, which wasn't the greatest. I'm telling you though, we did it. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. There were a lot of technical mistakes, but somehow it worked.
On the banner below is Dela's YouTube channel, and the simplest way is just go to YouTube and search for Dela's Voice, and you'll find it. But the are those original recordings and interviews? Are they on your channel?
They're all on there.
Perfect.
Yes, they're all on there.
It's funny how we start out, we want things to be kind of like a professional quality, and then, but the reality is that, in my own show, I had like the first 20 shows, there was one technical thing that went wrong on every show. And it was like afterwards you had to go, well, what was that? Why did that happen? And you had to kind of figure out, and you had to just sort of learn. And the only way to really learn is just by doing it. And so, and the funny thing is that there's nothing really wrong with all of that, other than the fact that, as you get going with it, you don't make those same kind of things. And you do every once in a while, something comes up, but you keep eliminating processes. And so you just get better and better. You get a better camera, you get a better microphone, and it all works. And,
yes.
and so you're doing it. It's great that I want to just ask one question, because, this happened to me where, as you were talking about being vulnerable, you were talking about, connecting. You didn't say it this way, but I'll say it. You were essentially connecting authentically and genuine with the people, because you were opening yourself up. I'm going to guess that you had the same kind of experience I did, and were surprised a little bit by it when it happened, where, you were like kind of exposing yourself, being, putting yourself out there, and the person doesn't say a word about what you just said, but they just reveal something about themselves. And the first couple of times that happened, I thought, it's like my ego part's like, oh my gosh, this was about me. This wasn't about you. But then I realized that it gives people permission to open up themselves. And so the fact that we open up and be genuine and authentic allows others to reveal about themselves and stretch and grow as a result of it.
You're so right. Sometimes we keep something to ourselves because we're either ashamed of it, or, something holds us back. And you're so right. As soon as you open up to people is when you realize that there's so many that feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so much good comes out of that, because not only this is a healing process for you, but also gives you a lot of hope that when you know that you're not the only one who feels that way. So I've experienced that over and over again. That's why I'm an advocate for mental health, Steve, because mental health is one of those stigmas that we need to overcome. And so it's really tough to open up about your mental health to people. But I'm telling you, when you do is when you realize how many other people are suffering too. And so there's so much hope in that connection and that authenticity. really authentically sharing our journey together. Yeah, so good. Thank you.
We have a mutual friend, Austin, who introduced us, or that's how we met. And you were doing you did edited a video for him. So he had an event, and you just took some of those pieces and threw them together. And I remember what the first thing I heard about you was that, oh, Dela is this excellent editor, and she put this together, and it just happened like a day ago, but she like stayed up into the night, and she blah blah blah. And I'm like thinking, man, this Dela, she walks on water. This girl's good. I want to meet her. And so then I start investigating a little bit who you are, and before I really could see much about Dela's Voice, I'm coming across the book club, or what do we call it?
The book reveal.
Book reveal. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? How is she doing Dela's Voice? And then there's something called the book reveal. And I was confused by it. So I, of course, now learned you have 5 different shows that you're broadcasting, podcasting, vlogging, whatever we call this medium that we're doing. So tell us about some of the other shows that you're doing, and how did that all come about?
Sure. So the first thing that happened was the Magnetic Entrepreneur podcast. So back in March, when COVID hit, this is when I took Dela's Voice set and brought it home. And so this is my new studio. And I started really, opening up to all these different opportunities. I was interviewing now people from all over the place. And one gentleman came across Robert J. Moore with the Magnetic Entrepreneur. And I read his story, and his story just blew me away. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I really want to interview this guy. So I approached him, and I thought, this is too big for me. He's never going to say yes. And so he did say yes. And he came on, and we had an amazing interview, because his story just is amazing. And so after about a week or so, he asked me to host his podcast for his company, The Magnetic Entrepreneur. And this is one of those things, right? Sometimes we're afraid to take that step because we don't have faith, we don't trust. I really have to thank my stars and some friends around me who said, do this, like this is good for you. So I did. I started hosting his podcast at the same time as Dela's Voice, and just that opened up so many doors for me, Steve. Now I got to meet these I want to call them high-end speakers, people who are sought after, and they speak on big stages. And I got to interview them, and it was amazing. It was mind-blowing. And then, so that's how that started. And actually, then I got to publish my book also, which was something else that was amazing. I mean, this year, when I look back, 2020 it's gone by so fast, but I've done so much in 2020, and publishing my book was one of them. And it was done through the Magnetic Entrepreneur, because that's also a publishing company. And then I got to speak on a big stage back in October, because I'm a part of the Magnetic Entrepreneur, and I've met people through there, to 2.5 million people across the globe, Steve.
Wow.
There were people listening from Iran, which is my birthplace, what a fantastic feeling that was. It was overwhelming. So that was the Magnetic Entrepreneur podcast. That how it came into me.
So what's very interesting to me, Dela, is that, like the moment COVID hit, like a lot of the world like retreated and kind of just stopped, and that I believe that is not such a bad thing. I mean, it's like allowing people the time to wake up, but there's people like yourself, and it's a minority. There's not that many people who were just kind of poised to, like take this and just kind of expand it into something new. So this year has been like this big launching pad for you directly as a result of the changes. And so anyway, I just want to congratulate you. And, you had put the work in, you had done, you were ready to go. You had 3 years of hard work where you were, getting yourself ready so that the minute it kind of happened, you just, you brought the studio home from the flower shop. You said, we're going to do, virtual interviews, which now like gives you a bigger audience. And then, of course you met Robert and that opened it up and expanded it. It's also very interesting that I never heard this before where someone said, hey, I want to do a podcast, but I don't want to do it. I want you to do it. I mean, had you heard of anyone else doing that?
Honestly, no. It was like, to me, I was like, oh my God, I wonder, this is how Oprah started. They asked her to host a show and then she did it. I was like, yes, of course I would do it. Are you kidding? This is amazing. This is what I want to say to whoever is listening to this. Opportunities are all around us. I think the difference between people is whether we take those opportunities or not, whether we look at them and say, that's never going to work. That's not for me. That's for lucky people. That's never going to work for me. Or is it to say, well, I'm going to do this and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? I can always go back to what I was doing before. So, that's how I feel.
We have some comments coming in. It's an anonymous user, but it says Dela is an amazing soul. So there you go. You're touching lives, and this is great. We love it. So you start with Robert. Tell us just about that podcast. Does Robert kind of arrange the guest? Does he interview, or does he introduce you to the guest and then you interview them? How does it work that way? And what are you doing, like a weekly show? Tell us about it.
So with the Magnetic Entrepreneur podcast is really just for people who are a part of the Magnetic Entrepreneur company. So whether they've written books with Robert's, with Robert's book series, if he's published their work, or whether they've done something with Robert. So he offers that as kind of like a gift to them.
To his like members audience.
Yes,
private.
Exactly.
It's not public out there. Okay, great.
Yes, exactly. So then he does, like he takes that extra step and he does introduce me to people, and then I go from there. I've had to learn a lot of different things. It's amazing. If I write things down, it'll be a long list of things I've had to learn, like how to set up Calendly and use that, and for all these different shows. So I've had to do that for different shows, and I send it to people and they book through the Calendly their time that works for them. And then, I often do a meet and greet just because I want to make sure that I get to know the person. And then we set up. So the Magnetic Entrepreneur show is, yes, it happens a couple of times a week, on and off. So, but it is always going. Dela's Voice is every single Sunday at noon. And then I started, as you know, the book reveal. The book reveal is a different type of a show. It's a recorded show, whereas the other ones are all live shows.
Okay.
The book reveal is for authors. So, the author has a book they want to put out. This is a promotional piece that the author can use to promote their book. So I interview 4 different readers that have read that book, and I interview them on their take on the book and what they feel they've gotten from the book and how it's helped them and how they feel like it might help someone else. So that's a really neat show as well.
So that's interesting. You're not actually interviewing the author, you're interviewing people who have read the book.
Yes.
How do you find them? Does the author share them with you, the people, or? Yes.
So the author would introduce
Oh.
me to the readers.
Oh, this is really interesting. That's exciting. And how long does that show? So that's recorded. So you're doing these like individual segments with the different people. You're not doing them all together, correct? And then you have to.
That takes a lot of work, right? As you know, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of editing.
How long is a finished show with the 4 different people?
An hour.
An hour. So roughly like 10, 15 minutes with each person.
Yeah.
Good. Wow, that's great.
Yes, so that's really cool. I really love that. I really love doing that because I love books, and so that's a good show for book lovers too, right?
I'll just ask one simple question. What is the what program are you? What editor are you using? A video editor do you use?
iMovies.
iMovie. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's something I've had to learn too.
Yeah. Right.
It's all a learning process. Steve, my first computer was, I got my very first computer when my son was born. He's 18. So I got that computer because I was taking pictures, and like I was trying to send people pictures back then. It wasn't as easy as going on your smartphone and sending stuff. And so it's not like I was born cable ready, like the new generation, right?
Right.
It's been a lot of learning process, and because you're doing this.
One of the things that I kind of like, I had an adjustment in the last 6 months where I can no longer allow myself to become annoyed when I'm doing technology. And so I anytime there's like something that like, I remember I'm very aware of like what would trigger me. And so I do not allow it to, so when things seem to be taking longer, I just sit in a moment of like gratitude or peace somehow and trying to go through this. And it's not easy. It's like conscious reprogramming of it. But the technology thing, you have to love it, or you have to embrace it. And you better love it, because if you don't love it, you're annoyed, then you're going to be annoyed a lot of the time because there's too much in there. So anyway, and very interesting. Good.
Here's one thing that I hear people say all the time, and I feel like everybody who says it thinks they're the only one. Me and technology, we're not friends. I hear this so many times. And it's like, okay, just start right there. Maybe just change that wording to, I love technology.
Yeah.
Because it's true. We look at what we're doing, Steve.
That's right. That's right. It's a gift. It's a gift. We could not do this otherwise. So, good. So, let's see, what other shows have we? So a butterfly effect.
Okay. So that I always liked the idea of having a few people, hosting a show. So, that was always interesting to me, that, a panel of hosts, like The View, something like that, right? And so I met these two ladies through this beautiful network of amazing people who I align with. We can laugh, we can cry together, we can talk about anything. And so we thought, let's start a show and talk about just everyday challenges, fear, for example, procrastination, things that really hit everybody in general. And so that's what we do for an hour. We talk about these things. We kind of open up the terms, what does the dictionary say about this? What does it mean to you? And so we just talk for an hour, and we've been having that 8 months. 8 months now. Once a month we do that show on the third Thursday of the month, and it's been amazing.
Is it the same group of hosts? Is the same?
Yeah.
And how many of you are there?
So myself and Paula DeCandia, she is the other host, and Colleen Woodhead is the third host.
Great. On the Spirituality Gone Wild channel, there's something similar. It's called Women Rising, and it's a little bit bigger in terms of 7 or 8 people, and they kind of take turns. Like there's a core group that's almost always there, and then some women kind of come in and out, and so they're sort of like I don't know what they are, but they do it weekly. So I get the format, and I love that. It's, you just take one issue and everybody offers a view. So it's nice. So very good.
Yeah.
And then tell me about the Iranian show that you're doing. And if it has a proper name, please tell me what that is too.
Okay. So I literally just translated Dela's voice into Iranian, and it became Avay Dela. And so the way that was, so Steve, I left Iran when I was 13, and I have not been back. So I did most of my formal education in outside of Iran, which then I guess resulted in my formal Iranian ability not to be as great. So this was always a roadblock for me. Every time I thought about doing a show in Farsi, it was always scary to me because I don't have the words, I don't have the vocabulary. What's it gonna look like? And so I just didn't. Fear, right? Fear. And so self-doubt. And so finally, on the 1-year anniversary of Dela's Voice, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I don't care what happens. I'm just going to do it because my heart's there. And so I started, plain and simple. I started the show. I was fortunate enough to have a really good friend of mine who is the host of, I think, the biggest, actually, the most listened to internet radio in Iranian. And so he's my friend. And my first interview was with him. And obviously thousands of people watched. And it was just a great start to my show. So then every week since then, every Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time, I run Avoye Dela. And I always bring someone, again, same idea as Dela's Voice. These are life coaches. They're authors, they're teachers, they're ordinary people who have gone through struggles, and now they have something to share. And my idea originally was to have just regular listeners coming on the show. And that happened, and I was so happy. So a couple of weeks ago, a listener, one of my listeners from Germany, he was on the show, and he talked about his journey of, his dad living with schizophrenia, his own depression and anxiety, and how immigration to Germany and everything he did and what he's doing now and how he got there. And it was just mind-blowing. And so that's really close to my heart, Steve. That show is really close to my heart because we need so much positivity, especially with everything that people are going through. And it's something that's needed. There's a lot of talk about politics and religion and all of that, but not enough talk about positivity. So
yeah. So all of the your Dela's Voice in Farsi or for the Iranian community, are the guests all like expats of Iran? Are they people? Have you been able to interview anybody who actually lives in Iran, or is that not something that can happen?
Oh my gosh, yes, actually, that was awesome. Thank you for asking that, because I forgot that. So I was introduced to this psychotherapist who lives in Iran, and yes, she came on, and obviously with technology, there's a lot of censorship, so internet is filtered. So for someone to be able to watch YouTube channel, for example, they have to have a special apps that can allow them to watch YouTube videos. And so I was so happy when she was able to get on StreamYard. Of course, she got cut off a few times, but it was awesome. And she was so good. And I welcome that. Like, I want to talk to people from Iran. I want them to come on and offer their expertise. And their services and get out there in the world. It's amazing. This is why I love technology, Steve. It's gotten us so close, even though the world's so big. We are so connected, and thanks to technology, we can do things we never used to do before. It's wonderful.
The people in the spiritual community talk about an awakening where old systems are breaking down and new systems and new levels of consciousness are rising up, and clearly all people throughout the world essentially have the same ideas and beliefs and goodness in their hearts. And it's the systems, it's the political systems, the religious systems that keep us separated and want to separate us. And so the Iranian people have been isolated in a way that in our generation and in the last 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years, in a way that very few other people throughout the world have had to experience. There are many others that are isolated too, but from the United States, from the American perspective, it's unfortunate. It's sad. And so we love the Iranian people, and we understand the goodness of their hearts, and we look forward to the day when we can all be open friends and interact with each other. And
here's to that picture, Steve. That's it. Let's visualize that kind of a life, that kind of world. Yeah,
good. Wow. Well, we're getting very close to the end. What would you like to share with the American Gumption audience? I mean, we've covered a lot. It's been a great story. I really love what you're doing. What kind of a message would you like to leave us with?
So, going back to my own struggles and my own challenges, I think that anytime we're in a rut, anytime we find ourselves in a place we don't like, there are 3 steps that we can follow to come out. And I call them my AAA formula, my AAA success formula. So the first A is for admit. So just admitting to yourself that there's a problem, admitting to yourself that this is not the life you want to live, whether that's in your relationships, whether it's your personally, you don't feel this is not where I want to be. Just admitting I have a problem. The second A is for ask. Find someone you can trust that has the ability and the knowledge to help you, and ask for help. It's a very vulnerable step, but needs to be done. Ask for help, because if you could do it yourself, you would have done it by now. So ask for the right help. Hire a coach. Talk to a counselor. The third step is for act. Doesn't matter how much knowledge you gain. If you don't act on it, it's not good for anything. It's just shelf help. So once you know what to do, do it. Take steps. Don't be afraid. Yesterday, I heard someone say, the right time is right now. Mm-hmm. Don't procrastinate. So start right now. So admit, ask, act. That's what I want to leave with.
Wow, I love that, Dela. Thank you so much for joining us and for your encouragement and wisdom that you brought. And it's just a matter of taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of us. I use the story of the feather from the beginning of the movie Forrest Gump that comes and lands at Forrest Gump, and those represent the opportunities that come into our lives, and they're always coming and they're landing, but we have to reach down and pick them up, and that's really what the key is. And Forrest, of course, reached down and picked up the feather, and you did that this year when you were broadcasting in your flower shop, in the corner of the flower shop, and then COVID hit, and rather than like become depressed or worried about it, you have launched, you reinvented Dela's Voice, and then you launched 4 additional shows immediately right after that. So what an inspiration. You're a personal inspiration. And I'll just say that as the year ends, this has been a wonderful year for me too, but I'm also kind of going through this reflection that, okay, this has like gotten me to this far. Now, what do I need to do, in the next thing? And so I'm admitting that, there's, you don't want to just like think this is it. You want to keep it. I want to keep the momentum going and actually take it to the next level. So, in a way, this was my asking of you to come on and for your wisdom. And now it's time for me to act on it. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I'm so grateful to be here, Steve. Thank you so much for asking me. And to your audience, thank you so much for watching.
Great. Well, we'll welcome you back next year. We won't play that welcoming song for you, but we'll welcome you back, and we'll keep in touch. Dela's Voice is a friend of the American Gumption Morning Show.
Thank you so much, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
Have a great day.
And you. Thank you.
Wow, that's Dela's great. I met her a couple of weeks ago. We had a conversation, and I got to know, a little bit more. So I didn't have all the pieces at the beginning correct, but that's okay. She filled it in beautifully, and it really is quite incredible that 5 shows. One of course was already alive, but it needed to get transformed into what it's become, and then that transformation birthed all of the next 4 shows that have happened. And now she's doing, she's become a professional broadcaster. So many, and my monologue yesterday was about this idea that so many of the, so many people, broadcast podcasts to promote their own business, as opposed to, broadcasting to make it kind of a business in and of itself. And that's what she's doing. And that's what I see that I would like to do more of that. So I'm going to take inspiration from what Dela has done and, expand American Gumption. I call it the American Gumption Project. So the show is one piece of it, but there's other pieces that need to come into place in 2021. So a solid foundation has been laid down with the American Gumption Morning Show. So now we will bring in other components of the project as we enter the new year. Alrighty, so that's it. I'm going to just say goodbye. I want to just let you know that tomorrow, Victoria Reynolds, and she has her own fascinating story of transformation. And it began in a little tiny community about a mile from where I spent 11 years living in Montana. And we only, figured that part out after we had met. And so we will get into her story of transformation tomorrow, Victoria Reynolds, and then Walt Keller, a real live Hollywood actor, on our show on Thursday. But Walt's story is not the typical Hollywood actor story. Walt is in his, he's past 45 years of age. He sells his business in Denver, and he moves to California, to Hollywood, to break into the movie industry or broadcast world, and he does it. And so he'll tell us his story. That's going to be on Thursday, the December 31st, and that'll be show number 100. So we have accomplished something pretty important here in 2021 already, or 2020. Alrighty, that's it. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow on Wednesday, December 30th. Today is December 29th. Have a great day, everybody.